This is the bottom of the cabinet that will go above the bed. It is approximately 54 inches long and approximately 12 inches in depth. So the first thing I did was figure this out. I used cardboard boxes, as I've said before, to be sure I had the right size so that we wouldn't be hitting them. Then I cut my track because I'm going to put sliders in all of our cabinets. I have not seen anyone doing that. I'm not sure why, but I am creating this so that I could convert it away from the sliders if they do pose some type of problem. But so far, I think they're going to work out really well. So I took a piece of wood and I cut the grooves for my slider, and I did quite a few of these so that I'll have more than I need for the cabinets I'm going to build. And when you do the sliders, if you're interested in doing that, they're very simple. You have to make sure that you cut the top groove deeper than the bottom groove, because of course your sliding door has to go up into the top and then drop down into the bottom groove. So you need twice the depth in your cut for the top groove than on the bottom. And then the thickness of these I cut or adjust as I'm building the cabinet. An important thing to consider when you're planning out your cabinets, if you're going to use these sliders and you're going to put a face frame on your cabinets, you have to plan to be sure that your face frame that goes on here is a little bit higher than your track, because of course we want to hide the track. And the face frame goes on the outer side all the way around on the cabinet. This is the template I made for the cabinets above the bed and above the sink. The full size is for the cabinet above the bed that holds our clothes. The smaller size right here is for the cabinet above the sink and oven. So these two cabinets will actually go right next to each other, but the one above the oven and the sink is going to be higher so that we can see under it and we don't hit our heads. So the next thing for me to do is to actually cut the sidewall pieces out this size. I used a nail gun and I put 4 sheets of 1/2 inch plywood together, and now I'm tracing the template, and I will use a table saw and I will cut all 4 of these out at the same time. That'll ensure that they're extraordinarily close to the same size. It's going to be a small cabinet. All my cabinets are going to be screwed together, and then after I complete the electrical, then I'll take them apart, polyurethane seal them, and then glue and screw them together, and of course paint them. But I'm not going to glue them together at all until the electrical is done, because I may want to integrate the electrical in with part of these cabinets. So I don't want to glue anything together because it would be very difficult to take apart and add the electrical outlets. Also, the sides are going to go all the way to the bottom because that's the main area you're going to see. I'm not putting the edge of the plywood visible. That's something you have to plan for and get your measurements right, because this is 1/2 inch plywood, so I have to deduct a 1/2 inch from the total length. And that's important because this is going to match up with the steel roof beams in the van. Those ribs, one of the ribs is right next to the beginning and the end of this, which I'm going to use to help secure it to the van wall. So it's going to go just like that, and this will get secured against this piece, and for now it will just be screwed in, and that'll provide a nice 90 degrees. When you're putting pieces of wood together, if you're working by yourself, sometimes it's difficult to get things lined up and put the screws in. It's always nice to put pilot holes in, but when you're trying to put a pilot hole in first, sometimes it's difficult to keep the two pieces of wood positioned properly. You can do it with clamps, but I've discovered that if before I put my screws in, if I just take and shoot a couple brad nails in, those will hold the wood in place, and then I can put the screws in. If you put one of the screws in and it's a little off center, it will push your edge off and your edge won't line up again. And there's nothing you'll be able to do to get that screw to move over to where you want it. So by shooting those brad nails in here first, holds the wood in place and allows you to put these screws in. Later, when I disassemble this to glue it together, when it's the final assembly, I'll easily be able to knock this piece of wood off of those brad nails and then put it back together again after I glue it. Just a hint that makes things a little bit easier. When I made the bottom for this cabinet, I measured the center, and you can see the center line changed a little bit because the length of the cabinet actually got a little bit longer. So now I mark the center because this is for clothes. So, you know, you've got the his and her side, and we're dividing it up equally. I don't know if that's really going to work, but I'm dividing it up equally. And I cut all of the side pieces and this center piece at the same time. And now I've cut the notches out right here for the back and the front. So when I put this here and I mount this in the center, my track, I've got to decide, do I need to cut this piece out so I can slide the sliders all the way back and forth? And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. All right, that way we can fight back and forth and slide part of the cabinet in front of each other. Give us something to do. All right, so it's important to think of these things along the way, or as I've always said, building a van, you got to be prepared to do things 2, 3, sometimes 4 times before you get it the way you want it. This is now cut to allow the sliders to go back and forth. Be sure to countersink all of your screws. If you're going to paint the cabinet, countersink, and when you paint it, you can fill it and nobody will even know the screw is even there.